So I've been tagged by EVHisgodyoumuppet. He's a pretty cool guy. Plays the guitar very well. He plays, he plays electric guitar, he plays metal stuff very good. And he started making video blogs on his channel. And I have to say, he's also very undersubscribed. So I want to put a link to his channel in the sidebar. Never get that right. The sidebar over here. And check him out if you guys are curious. So continuing on, my story about how I became an atheist. That's basic. I'm going to leave that in. You can make fun of me or laugh at me, whatever. So my story in regards to how I became an atheist. Well, it started early on. Shortly after my parents moved from Japan back to the States, I had been born here in San Diego, but my dad was in the Navy, stationed in Japan. Then he was stationed in Tennessee. So I basically grew up as a good old country boy for the first 10 years of my life, give or take. But either way, I was a young child, I think 4 or 5, 3 or 4 when we came back, 4 or 5, somewhere around there. And shortly after we came back, I remember Christmas. And 2 or 3 weeks before Christmas, I found that my parents' closet was full of presents. Well, I was wondering what they were, but I didn't ask. Even though, surprisingly to me at the time, many of those presents were presents I had asked for. Christmas rolls around, and those presents I found were underneath my tree. I was a very happy kid because I got many of the presents I asked for, but it did do something to me. It made me question whether or not Santa Claus actually existed. I've been told Santa existed for my entire life. I was told to put out cookies, and the cookies would be gone the Christmas morning. Milk, the glass of milk that I put out would be gone. But I was told he existed. Of course, Santa Claus doesn't exist. And I learned that very early on. And from that day, I've been skeptical about claims of magical men that supposedly exist and have some kind of impact on our lives. Or magical women, for that matter. This is what led me to become an atheist. I mean, I was basically raised an agnostic. I was never taught that a God didn't exist, and I was never really taught that a God did exist. But as I grew up, became interested in the sciences, my skepticism bloomed into something where I really strongly questioned the claims of those peers around me when I was a preteen or early teenager, claiming that a God exists and trying to force that on me. I learned that some of the references to God in our culture here in America weren't originally there. The Pledge of Allegiance, for example, which I actually got in trouble for not reciting properly until I showed the teacher, after being sent to the library for detention, that yes, I was reciting it properly. I left the under God part out because the Pledge of Allegiance originally did not have under God in it. I have a collection of $5, $10, $1 bills that do not have "In God We Trust" on the back. This was before the 1950s, when they were printed before the 1950s, when that was finally put in there. So I learned that this whole "In God We Trust" and "One Nation Under God" wasn't accurate. And I was questioning whether or not God existed. In the end, over the years, I've come to a conclusion on that question. One I base on both the witnessing of evidence that natural events occur naturally and do not need to invoke a God to explain them, including things like the origin of life, the origin of the universe, etc. But I've also come to the conclusion that when you have something that has no definitive evidence for it, no demonstrable evidence for it, that is the same as claiming that a fictional entity exists when they really don't. So in my view, that's how my atheism came to be. It started off really as agnosticism. And over the years I became too concerned with, well, not too concerned, I became very concerned with whether or not questions can be answered. And I became concerned with the evidence. And in the end, I cannot accept the claim that a God exists. I have to state outright that those claims are invalid because they are not demonstrable. And hence, I can state that the likelihood of a God existing is about as likely as the rabbit going down the rabbit hole and Alice in Wonderland existing. Exists in fiction, exists in print, exists in the mind, in our imagination, but doesn't exist in reality. Okay, so that's my story. Simple one. But it's time for me to tag two people. Now I'm going to tag Beware the Lizards 42 and Fun Size Choco. I hope I said your name right. Your screen name right. Beware the Lizards 42. Been fun to watch. She's a great girl on here. And the Fun Size Choco or Coco, you're gonna have to correct me on that. I'm sorry. Well, she just put out her 100th subscriber video, and she's just about 107 subscribers, and she's a very interesting girl to listen to and watch. So I'm going to tag her, and I suggest you guys take a look at her channel, and take a look at Beware the Lizards 42's channel as well. Okay, so that will be it for now. Those channels are going to be in the sidebar, and I have to actually move on to make a few more videos. I'm trying to get this done before classes start tomorrow. Okay, take care.